Hey everyone, this is Brian Holmes with the Strategic Living Podcast and BrianHolmes.com. You're listening to my great friend Stephanie O'Brien, and you are about to be moved by purpose.
I think as a coach, that's my first step, is making sure that someone can see that there is hope, because without hope, they're not going to take any steps to change those things or to recalibrate their mind. If I can just bring that spark back, wow, maybe I can do this. Maybe, yes, I'm not beyond help. I'm not beyond the ability to change. I think we can work from there.
Are you longing to know what your purpose is? Are you on the wrong career path? Do you feel like there must be more to life? Don't worry, there's hope. It's time to be moved by purpose. Now your host, Stephanie O'Brien.
Hey, you are listening to the Move by Purpose podcast. It is your host, Stephanie O'Brien, and today I'm excited to introduce our guest. He is a career strategist and coach. Gabriel Aviles is passionate about helping transitioning creatives and entrepreneurs launch into purposeful and profitable work. He lives in Nashville, Tennessee, where he also continues his 20-plus years of work in entertainment and media. For more information, log on to fullblastcareer.com. And without any further delay, let's welcome Gabriel to the show. Welcome to the show, Gabriel. It is an honor to have you on today.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'm very excited to be part of the Moved by Purpose podcast. Very exciting.
I'm excited to have you on. I know each other through Dan Miller's Coaching Mastery program, and I love having the Coaching Mastery members on the podcast because all of you guys are very high-quality people that are just going after your dreams and making things happen, and I know there's always high value added to the audience when I have you guys on the show. Now, the first question I ask every guest is to give us a background about you, maybe what were the life events or maybe work events that happened that led you to doing what you do today.
Sure. Well, Stephanie, I grew up, actually I'm from Chile, South America, if that's of interest. I came to the States when I was 5. Grew up being obsessed with pop music and all things music, and so my dream was to get into the music business. I moved to Nashville not knowing anybody or anything about it, and decided to pursue a degree in music business, launched into that, did that for about 15 years, and a variety of companies and settings and genres, and a lot of fun. And then I moved over to television, something I also at that time knew nothing about. Worked in cable television for 5+ years, in digital advertising, content acquisition for a subscription video on demand service, among other things. Had a blast. Really have had a great career in entertainment, and then decided to move into coaching last year, which has also been a blast. My history has been one of kind of taking chances and transitions and not being afraid of change. And on the coaching side, I love to help people that are looking to pursue something, launching a product, service, or an idea, and just kind of helping them through those hurdles and trying to help them to move along and change the world with whatever they have up their sleeve.
And change is necessary if you're going to pursue your dreams or fulfill the call on your life or the dream that's in your heart. And I love how you pursued what you've always wanted to do, like in the music career, and you were sharing with me how you did it regardless of what your parents thought or what everyone else thought, even though it seemed ludicrous. And I love how you've made a number of those, quote, ludicrous changes in your life to go after what you want. And I think that you're a great inspiration and example of what that's like and what to do. So I think people can connect with you there, and if they're frozen or stuck or clinging to, I don't know, the opinions and thoughts of everyone else rather than going after what they want, what did you do? Was there anything, did you just do it? Or was there a fight, and did it take you a while to make these changes, or did you just say, forget what they think, I'm doing it anyway?
Well, I think it depends on which change we're talking about. Initially, the desire to go all in and pursue a music business career. It didn't take too much there. I had a huge passion for it, and at the time I had no responsibility, so to speak. I had no wife or children like I have now, so I could make the move to Nashville, and I could just figure it out. And yeah, and even though I graduated with honors and everyone thought I should be a doctor or a lawyer because I had those kinds of grades, I still decided to do it anyway. So it didn't really take too much just to do it. I figured, what's the worst that can happen? So I go back to school and pursue a more traditional kind of career, I guess. When it came down to the television side of things, when I moved after 15 years of music and I moved into television, that was more of a forced change, honestly. The record business that I was a part of, the industry was shrinking and continues to shrink, and so the opportunity came up to do that. And, I jumped at it. It was one of those, why not? I never had that wasn't as deliberate to move in that direction, but that was one of those things where I thought, well, here we go, let's do this, and I'm on board. So the other change recently had to do with, just kind of stepping out on my own, and at that time, I had a lot more at stake, Stephanie. So by now I was married, sole provider for 3 small children and my wife, and so the transition was certainly a lot more measured. I had to really, first of all, just be clear, have a clear word from God that this is the direction I needed to head into. Number 2, I had to make sure that my wife was on board, because being an entrepreneur but not having the support of a wife is not good news, and it's something's going to give, either my business or my marriage, and I wasn't willing to sacrifice that. I had to make sure that I had financial provision for the season. Going into business for yourself isn't always an immediate launch and an immediate revenue generator. So as you know, it takes a while to build. And so I knew I had to have some preparation. And there were some other considerations. So I wasn't at a place in life where I could just take off and go do whatever. And, I'm fine to live in a van if I have to myself, but my wife, not so much. My kids, not so much. And then we also had other considerations, Stephanie. As you know, we made deliberate decisions for my wife to stay at home and homeschool our children. So that was something to consider. And I still don't expect my wife to go get a job outside the home, because we really value her being here with the kids and homeschooling. And so yeah, my transition this time around had to be a lot more measured, had to be a lot more calculated. It took a long time, but it's still possible. And so I would encourage anybody out there who's in any kind of situation that you want to make a transition to, don't give up and don't think it's impossible. It just may take a little bit more prep, more foundation to do it, but it's still possible to make a transition into what God has called you to do.
You said a number of really good nuggets in that answer, which immediately, you said you had a clear word from God to make that significant transition. In my journey, that was very similar as well. I had that clear prompting and direction from God that it was time to leave my job and focus on building the business full time. What I want to be clear on, though, is that I think my assumption was that it would be a little bit easier than it was for me. I realized that there were a lot of lessons I had to learn and a lot of character that was developed through that whole process and season. I think some people can maybe mistaken that if God gives you that clear direction, that it's going to be like an easy path, and they're just surprised with how it's not that way.
So true, Stephen. I mean, we see examples. You and I know that you're a Bible-believing person, and we see examples in the Bible of people that took years for preparation, whether it was Moses or Joseph, Abraham. Things take time. Even Jesus didn't really start his ministry until the age of 30. So yes, you're absolutely right. It is very much a game of patience often. There are certainly examples of people that take off out of the chute, but that's the exception, and I think we get enamored by those exceptions, and we all aspire to be those exceptions, but there's also much to be gained from the journey. I definitely would have wanted my personal transition this time around to have been easier. I'll be transparent. It's been tough. I mean, there have been moments where I've questioned what I'm doing and why isn't the business coming like I thought it should be, and all of these potential clients that wanted my services all of a sudden are not open to my services anymore, or there's no budget. it's certainly tough, but it doesn't mean that I give up, and it doesn't mean that it's not the right thing. It just means that I'm learning and growing through this process, and guess what? Once I know I'm going to make it to the other side, and once I do, I will be that much of a better person for it, a much better coach, a much better dad, parent, all of it, because I think life struggles are good for character building, and I know it sounds archaic to say that, but I think character is very important, and we see people all the time in power, in various positions of power, that have the power but no character. I am very excited about what God is doing in my life through this process, what I'm learning. Do I want to learn all the lessons I'm learning? No. Do I want it to be easier? Yes, but I'm fine to go with the process, and I'm excited about the outcome and what is being done and worked out in me. And so that as things happen, as things continue to grow and unfold for me, I'll be better positioned to really maximize the opportunity and to really create a bigger impact.
I was reading this book, The Richest Man Who Ever Lived, and it's a study of Proverbs, written by Stephen Scott, King Solomon's Secrets to Success, Wealth, and Happiness. One of the things that I am starting to do is to read a chapter of Proverbs every day, and to really, really, really slow down and meditate on what he's saying. Because some of it is like puzzles and riddles, and I'm like, I don't even know what this means. But to slow down and really try to understand the deeper revelation of it. And Proverbs is a very good book on relationships, character, integrity, how to conduct yourself really in society that does lead to success. It's a great book for business owners to study and meditate on. And one of the things that this author addresses was very true, is that we tend to be creatures that like the path of least resistance. We don't like hard work necessarily. We'd rather that instant gratification, which is why our nation is so much in debt. Why we are so unhealthy and overweight, because we are such a blessed nation. I mean, we have obviously corruption and brokenness, but I still think overall we are a blessed nation that has so many things at our fingertips and conveniences available to us that feeds that instant microwave, I want it now, I don't like waiting 5 seconds for anything. So I think we're accustomed to that. For me, I think starting a business or building a business has been the best thing that could have happened to me. Even though it also has been slightly traumatic at sometimes, like with what I've gone through, what I've learned. But in retrospect, when I'm looking behind all the growth that I have seen in my life, Gabriel, you know that I just had a presentation on Saturday, which was one of the biggest opportunities I've had so far. And one of the revelations I had while I was up on stage was I was blown away at the power of the platform. And I was like, wow. I'm like, it just blew my mind. It hit me. I was like, the person that is on the platform has a huge amount of power. And I was like, and I was just so grateful that I was not put on the platform until I had the character to handle it. Because I think it would have gone to my head, or I would have just been more careless or kind of foolish in some of the things I've said without maybe fact-checking or making sure that I'm more sensitive to different situations in the audience. You know, if I was on there when I wanted to be, I think I could have done more damage than I could have helped. Which is exactly why I wasn't on there.
Yeah, that's a very wise outcome of that presentation.
Yes, so very grateful for that. Another thing that we hear with people that we follow and admire, and I'm definitely not, you know, and it's even my message about the power of like being intentional about creating the life you want. You mentioned how your wife intentionally stays home to homeschool your children. And those are the choices that you guys have made, and because that is the lifestyle you guys want. And I think that whole lifestyle entrepreneurship where, you can live on the beach and work and just have all this passive income and all of these things, which eventually are outcomes, if that is your goal, that's a lot of people's goals, that we'll eventually see. But there's a cost to those choices in the beginning that I don't necessarily know if everyone is fully aware of. At least that was the case for me, is there is a cost when you're fulfilling the call on your life. There's a cost with it. It's completely worth it, but that cost can take, again, just like we said, Jesus didn't start his ministry until he was 30, right. So right. The preparation phase can take a long time. So
it's easy to glamorize and to see all these successful people that are quote-unquote overnight successes as well, and not even see what they've done. But even if they were overnight, there are also some sacrifices they've made. Pat Flynn, your audience may be familiar with Pat Flynn. He's about to release this book called Will It Fly, which I ordered recently. But I heard him talking about some of the people in his circles that are smart passive income, online business gurus, so to speak, and even they're unhappy with where they are. They have success in business, but it wasn't necessarily, the path they chose wasn't necessarily true to them, true to what they wanted to do. They were trying to mirror what other people were doing, but at what cost? At the cost of now not being fulfilled and not having purpose or not feeling like they're where they need to be. So, and this is kind of a different point, but I also wanted to just bring up the point of making sure that you're not mimicking someone else's success, that God has designed you very deliberately, very specifically for this specific time and place to do what you've been called to do, not what Stephanie has been called to, I have been called to, Pat Flynn, John Lee Dumas, Tony Robbins, whoever your model, Bill Gates, on and on. You have a very specific purpose, and so don't get fooled into chasing what other people are doing, and you figure out what you're called to do and pursue that, and it's going to look very different than others, and that's fine. I don't think you're not going to be fulfilled if you mirror someone else's path.
I think I've heard that advice a lot. I personally think it takes a long time, at least for me. Okay, so I'm a slower learner in some things and a fast learner in others. But to really sink in from a head knowledge to a deeply rooted core heart belief, especially when you're just starting out, where you might have more of an overview of the call of your life, but you don't necessarily have that specific step-by-step action plan that we all wish we had. In the beginning, I was looking at a lot of people, and I used that more of, well, this is what they're doing, so this is what works, and I was really convincing myself that, because you hear things like, success leaves clues, which there is truth in that. And so I would study their business model and things like that, which there's nothing wrong with that. But then I also would just end up recreating or repeating what already existed. Mm-hmm. There was a lack of fulfillment. It didn't feel right. It didn't feel like me. And it took me a while to really, truly be true to me. And I think that takes courage for people to really say, this is who I am, and this is what I'm going to do. There's a lot of risk in innovation, because it's never been done before. So you have nobody else to look at to see if it's going to work or not, and you have no other example other than what is in your heart to do and to pursue, and there's no guarantee that it's going to be successful.
That's true. I mean, you touched on something that's important too, as far as, we do need to learn from others, learn from those other people that are doing what you're wanting to do, the Richard Bransons of the world, or whoever it is that you would like to emulate, but recognize that you still have your own. You still have a very different calling. You may even have a similar message, but the way that your message or your product or your service needs to be unleashed is different. It's intended for a different audience, or it's said in a different way, and people need that. Don't deprive the world of you because you're too busy trying to become someone else.
Very good. I'm going to write that down. That was a good quote there. Don't deprive the world of you. The world of you, because you're too busy trying to become someone else. So I know that there's a lot involved with change. And I know that you work with people a little bit on mindset. Mm-hmm. What do you think holds people back the most from going after what's in their heart and what they may even believe God has called them to do, but they're still never pulled the trigger?
Okay. Well, ironically, I'm just working on an article that I'm about to submit to a blog that I write called The Daily Positive, and it's called Personal Beliefs You Need to Lose. You know, a lot of it is personal beliefs of, I have no money, I have no time, I'm too busy, I don't know enough people, nobody's going to want to hear what I have to say or do, on and on, and the list can go on and on. So it's really just a lot of personal beliefs, and often these beliefs, as we've all read and heard, are rooted in how we grew up, how we were raised, maybe how your parents treated you or didn't treat you or ignored you, or if you were abused, on and on. I mean, we have these personal beliefs that we have to change. And even going deeper beyond changing those personal beliefs, I like to think that the first thing that someone needs is hope. So before you even can deal with some of those negative personal beliefs about yourself, self-doubts and fears, is really sparking hope into someone that even you, Mr. or Miss, in a terrible situation, your whole life's a mess, even you have hope, and even you have something in you that still needs to come out. You have something that you need to give to the world. And in fact, because your life is in shambles, that is exactly the mess that can be used to provide hope and motivation and life to others. So I think as a coach, that's my first step, is making sure that someone can see that there is hope, because without hope, they're not going to take any steps to change those things or to recalibrate their mind. And so if I can just bring that spark back that, wow, maybe I can do this. Maybe, yes, I'm not beyond help. I'm not beyond the ability to change. Then I think we can work from there.
Hope and faith are two very powerful things, and they almost work together. Faith without first having hope doesn't work. But you do need to take that hope and step it up to faith, because there are some people that live life in hope but don't do anything to take that next step. So, like you said, they kind of partner together very strongly. I heard this one quote, Stephen Buckland, I think they have a Igniting Hope Ministries, and they say that any situation that appears hopeless is under the illusion of a lie. I agree with that, and so I'm sure you kind of work with your clients with this too, is when someone appears hopeless, at least what I do as a coach is immediately try to uncover that lie and get it out of the way. And that can be a process of kind of digging in to see what they're believing, but it's very, very powerful.
It is, and one thing that I've also realized through this coaching process is that sometimes it's not necessarily a linear process. So you maybe you overcome some things initially and you pursue, and then some of those old fears, old doubts, old mindsets come back. And so it is more of a circular path where we constantly have to be renewing our minds and really dismissing the lies and believing the truth about ourselves, about the fact that we are made in God's image. There's something you have to offer. You were made with a purpose, and, it doesn't matter what other people think, being comfortable with who we are, with our identity, on and on. So those are things that some to a lesser degree than others, but there will always be those mindsets that we have to recalibrate. Even if you're a successful entrepreneur or have a successful business or venture or career, whatever it is, even taking that next step into greater success, you may have to fight those things again. In some ways, it's a consistent battle, and it's a consistent battle that we fight, but fortunately there are tools to do that, and there are ways that we just continue to fight that, and know that you're not alone in doing that. It happens to all of us. We're all humans.
It's a process too. So we're like onions with lots and lots of layers.
I love it.
That you have to constantly peel back, and sometimes you need to revisit something. You're like, I thought I already dealt with this, but you're like, well, something else came up, and we're gonna have to go to another layer of this.
Well, I mean, unless you're stagnant, if you're really growing and progressing, whether it's progressing as a person in your calling, destiny, as a husband, as a wife, as a parent, as an employee, as an employer, in whatever arena that you find yourself in, unless you're not growing, you're going to be faced with new challenges consistently. And then those new challenges are likely to bring up new fears or reoccurring fears. And so the only way to minimize those things is to pretty much have a normal life where nothing changes. And even then, there's nothing promised to us. But people, I'm guessing that people that are listening to you right now are people that are go-getters, that are people that want to live a life with purpose and want to continue to push forward. And so we're going to be faced with those things a lot more so than maybe others that are more content and staying where they are.
And you said another powerful quote, if you are growing, you are going to be faced with new challenges consistently. Mm-hmm. So the sooner you can get over that, the better off you'll be. So again, some people may be more stubborn than others because we are creatures that like the path of least resistance. Growth means you are constantly getting refined, constantly getting stretched. There's growing pains. We have all those terms that are thrown out there, growing pains, which is like, well, it's not growing comfort or growing ease. It's growing pains. I do think there is an importance of self-care, where there's rest. There's time you need to take care of yourself. You don't want to overstretch to the point where you're snapping and try to do too much too soon to rush the process. I've done that to myself and burned myself out quickly. There are warnings with that. If you happen to believe in God and have a relationship with Him, He takes care of you. Even if you're making mistakes, He always has a way to reposition you to where you need to be. If you're not moving, He will give you a loving kick to get going.
Is that a kick with purpose?
What?
Kick with purpose.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, Gabriel, I could keep talking to you about all of this, but we do need to come to a close. Where can people connect with you?
Sure, I'd love to hear from your audience. You can email me, Gabriel@fullblastcareer.com. That's FULLBLASTCAREER.com. Or you can go to my website, fullblastcareer.com, and shoot me an email there. And there's no obligation. I'd love to spend 15-20 minutes with anybody who wants to, just to talk a little bit about career purpose strategy if they're interested. Of course, go to Stephanie first, but Stephanie's too busy because she has a long waiting list.
Yes, or if you just resonated with Gabriel more than me, come on over to him.
Either way, we're both trying to help people and want to help people. So
yeah. Well, thank you again.
Thank you. Progressing as a person in your calling, in whatever arena that you find yourself in, unless you're not growing, you're going to be faced with new challenges consistently. And then those new challenges are likely to bring up new fears. We're going to be faced with those things a lot more so than maybe others that are more content in staying where they are.
So there you have it. That was Gabriel over at fullblastcareer.com. Make sure you connect with him. Thank him for his advice. If he really said a couple things that inspired you, take a moment out of your day to connect to people. I say over and over and over again how important it is to not hide and be distant, but to let people know how grateful you are for what they have taught you or what they have said. I did a presentation recently where I said many people ask for help, but few take the time to thank them. So, make sure you reach out to any guest on this show, or even myself, to thank them for whatever it is that they have helped improve in your life. So, speaking of thanking, I am offering right now, until March 15th, you can send me a success story or a question about how I can help you or something you would like answered, and how I can walk you through a problem that you have. You can send that over to Stephanie@movedbypurpose.net, or fill out the contact form that goes directly to me, or it will go to the right, or it gets filtered to me, and that is at movedbypurpose.net. You need to be part of the newsletter to take advantage of this, though. If you are part of the newsletter and you send me this email, you will get one free coaching session with me. Also, there will be a grand prize for all eligible responses for a free coaching package giveaway. This is a big one. And this is because I want to see you progress. So take full advantage of it. All who reply get a free coaching session with me. And all who reply are eligible to win the grand prize of a free coaching session. You must be part of the newsletter, though, and you must submit your response by March 15th. So don't lose out on this opportunity. It's very exciting. Don't stay stuck any longer. This is free, accessible, and available coaching to you. I wouldn't miss out. All you got to do is join the newsletter and send an email. How has this podcast impacted your life? Or how has Moved by Purpose benefited you? What differences have you seen in your life? Or you can ask a question of how you need help and how you would like to get unstuck, or how you would like to grow your business or change your career or find your purpose. And ask a question and you will get a free coaching session. So I wouldn't miss out on this opportunity. I'll talk to all of you next week, and I look forward to your replies.